Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. Last night, I was putting up a few videos for the Monday Night Raw preview that goes up today. It's going to be a fun edition of Monday Night Raw. They got some good matches going on. They're sort of really promoting the undercard tonight, leading up into Night of Champions with a tag team title and a Divas title match, as well as the Nikki Bella deal. Going into her breaking the record of AJ Lee's to becoming the longest reigning Divas champion of all time. But during putting up tags and things like that, and watching the end of the Cowboys and Giants game, I was listening to the MLW podcast. A really great show. It was just Conan and Court Bauer sitting down and shooting the shit. And Court Bauer really shocked me during this show. They were talking about the amount of news coming out of TNA lately, and basically, if you think about the rumors that you've heard about TNA, it really involves the coming and going of two superstars. One being Jeff Hardy, who it seems as if with Kurt Angle saying that he's going to be leaving the company when his contract comes up. TNA doesn't really have the money rolling in. They're just trying to roll out to try and see if they're going to be able to be doing house shows for the company. They have, I believe, 3 shows leading up to Bound for Glory, which they're calling the Road to Bound for Glory tour. And there's lots of talk whether if Jeff Hardy's going to be able to stay with the company or if he's going to have to leave because they don't have the money to cover his contract. Now, you've seen WWE put up Jeff Hardy pictures not once but twice, basically saying, who is the superstar that you would most like to return? Almost like, without saying, we want Jeff Hardy to come back to work for us. This is the one way that they can sort of get around doing this. And they released pictures of Jeff Hardy when he was under contract. So they're not really breaking any rules that they'd be doing this. And the other rumor would be that Hulk Hogan, who is desperate to find a job, and TNA, who is desperate to find a way to bring in people that's going to bring in ratings, maybe they could come together on a deal and put their pieces together. Now, when they were going over all of this, they were talking, of course, about the Destination America deal, where people are really looking into each and every week trying to see if TNA is going to get canceled or if they're going to be able to stay with Destination America. There was the internal memo that was passed around that the Destination America television company, the guys in the suits, basically saying that they're not really making any money, they're not really getting the ratings that they thought they were going to. They're not even really producing the amount of shows that they thought they were going to be getting when they signed TNA and brought them into the Destination America team. Now, there's some people who think that they're going to be getting cut somewhere here in September, where they have their exit clause in their contract, and everybody keeps waiting for this announcement, whether if it's going to be made by TNA or whether if it's going to be made on the Destination America website, or TMZ is going to get the news, a lot like when Spike put the word out that they were going to be canceled. They need to find out, when this is going to be taking place. And Court Bauer just casually said that the September 16th episode of TNA Impact will be the last episode showed on Destination America. Court Bauer is the guy that I really trust. The MLW podcast, as well as one of the shows that's on there and is also on the Law, Bauer and Pollock, is one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to. It's really informative. It's just down and dirty, just talking about wrestling. Every once in a while they might go off on a verge topic, but when it comes down to it, they stay just talking about news and just getting through as many stories as they can and covering the big stories and giving as much insight as they can. Court Bauer is the guy that was in WWE. Garbage truck going by, sorry. He was in WWE on the creative team. He had his own I guess you can say indie company that he ran for a while, so he's done a lot inside of the wrestling business, as well as working for Ring of Honor, as well as working for AAA. And you would think that this guy has a lot of sources, and when he says something, he's going to mean it. He doesn't want to put it out there if that's not what it's going to be, because he doesn't want any bad press, swirling around his podcast, I guess you can say. But it's kind of a surprise, at least when you look at what's going to be going down on this week's edition of Impact. It's going to be the Lethal Lockdown, which is going to be the end of the Global Force Wrestling invasion, and TNA's there. I don't know if, well, I do know because I saw the spoilers, and I don't want to give them away, but I don't know how not to. Basically, TNA is going to win this match. It's going to be Bobby Lashley. I can't even really remember the guys that were out there. Bobby Lashley, the Wolves. I know that Bram was out there, and was it a team of 4 or was there one more guy out there? There might be one more guy out there. I know that Eric Young was in the ring, but he was on the Global Force Wrestling side. But the team that they fought was just straight out scrub-alicious. I can't even believe the team that they put out there for Global Force Wrestling. One, Global Force Wrestling is getting their name, put out there on Destination America. It's getting their name spread throughout the wrestling business, and they need to get this television deal. They keep holding these good television tapings in Las Vegas, but then when they do these road shows at these stadiums, the shows are just sort of like, I mean, they're not even better than the indies that are going around. But to get away from what's going to happen on Impact this week, it's a surprise. I keep waiting for when this bomb is going to drop. TNA was always a company, they put wrestling on. They were, they had highs, they had lows. They definitely had lows, and when they were high, they were really high. I mean, I honestly thought that there was a chance that they could take over and get a good piece of the pie in the wrestling business when Joe and Angle were hot. They had the Dudleys, they had Jarrett, Nash was there. They definitely had a real strong team. They had a really strong roster, and at that time, WWE had their roster splits. I think the TNA's roster was not as good as WWE's, but definitely on paper it was a better roster than Raw, and it was a better roster than SmackDown. Definitely, you get into like the 2010 era when Hogan gets there. You have Hogan come in. Hogan brings Ken Anderson. He brings Jeff Hardy. Matt Hardy rolled in, and maybe you can look at it, the whole Jeff Hardy heel turn on the Bound for Glory on 10-10-10 as being one of the things they did wrong. But I'm really surprised that this would be the last edition at Impact. I know that when companies, a television company is normally going to pull the plug on a television show, they don't really care what happens to it. No one's really going to be as nurturing as Spike was, where basically they gave them a timeline. You need to find another network by this date, or we're going to pull the plug. And when it came down to that date, Spike TV said, let's just we'll just give you time on the network until the end of the year, and hopefully at that point you'll find a new deal. You normally wouldn't see that if it was NBC or CBS or one of the companies like that. If a show wants to keep going, they can go out there and try to find a place to put their show on. But if not, they're just caring about getting their new show out there so they can establish new viewers into a new show that's out there. So I don't want TNA to die, but I think that's the story, that it's going to die. We're going to have to see if they're going to be able to stay alive being a super indie, with their dates coming up. If they don't have television leading into Bound for Glory, what does that mean for Bound for Glory? They have the house shows, they have the actual pay-per-view. Is that going to be able to keep them alive and roll them into January, where they're going to go on tour overseas and do the UK tour, which is one of the biggest revenue tours that they do? But without Jeff Hardy, without Kurt Angle, what does that company really have? And if you bring Hulk Hogan in, that's just blowing money on something that you don't really need. I mean, he's not really going to help creative. You saw what happened with him last time. They started putting him into every single feud that was out there, whether if it was the Divas or Aces and Eights or anything else along the way. And he had some things that was good in TNA, but for the most part, there was just long points where he was just on the show. He wasn't really doing much, but the show was really based all around Hulk and what Hulk was doing. So, there's definitely mistakes you can point out in the TNA book, but we'll have to see what they're able to do to fix it in the foreseeable future.